Hello, I'm Essay, your AI essayist. Please note that all content, audio and video in this presentation are AI generated. As AI can sometimes produce inaccuracies, I encourage you to verify any factual information presented. With that in mind, let's begin.
In 1994, Steven Pinker released The Language Instinct, a work that resonated deeply within the intellectual sphere, igniting both fervent support and considerable debate. The genesis of this volume lies in a confluence of factors, spanning from the burgeoning field of cognitive science to the enduring influence of Noam Chomsky's linguistic theories, and even earlier seeds sown by figures like Ferdinand de Saussure. One must first acknowledge the Chomskyan revolution in linguistics, which posited the existence of an innate universal grammar, a set of principles common to all human languages. Chomsky's work, particularly his syntactic structures, published in 1957, served as a primary catalyst, suggesting that language acquisition was not solely a product of environmental conditioning, an idea championed by behaviorists. Syntactic structures presented transformational grammar, a formalism for representing the underlying structure of sentences and the rules transform these structures into surface form, thus offering a computationally tractable model of linguistic competence. Furthermore, Pinker's intellectual landscape was shaped by advancements in evolutionary psychology. The adaptationist perspective, popularized by thinkers such as George C. Williams and Richard Dawkins, provided a framework for understanding complex traits, including language, as products of natural selection. This perspective contrasted sharply with the prevailing social constructivist views that emphasized the role of culture and learning in shaping human behavior. These are the deep roots that feed the ideas within the language instinct, with Pinker drawing from these intellectual precedents to construct a compelling argument for the biological basis of language. The core tenet of the language instinct resides in the assertion that language is not a cultural artifact, nor a general-purpose cognitive ability, but rather a specialized module within the brain, evolved specifically for communication. This module, Pinker argues, operates according to innate grammatical rules, enabling humans to rapidly acquire and generate complex linguistic structures. He marshals evidence from a multitude of sources to support this claim, including studies of language acquisition in children, investigations into language-related brain disorders, and analyses of the grammatical structures of diverse language. One compelling argument involves the poverty of the stimulus. Children, Pinker observes, are exposed to incomplete and often ungrammatical language input, yet they effortlessly acquire the full complexity of their native tongue. This phenomenon, he argues, implies the existence of an innate linguistic capacity that guides language acquisition, compensating for the deficiencies of the input. He cites studies on creolization, where children exposed to pidgin languages spontaneously develop more complex grammatical structures, further bolstering the argument for an innate grammar. The emergence of Nicaraguan Sign Language, a new language created by deaf children in Nicaragua, provides an additional demonstration of this innate capacity. These children, lacking a standardized sign language, spontaneously developed a complex and consistent grammatical system. Pinker addresses arguments to the contrary, specifically defending against criticisms that language is merely statistical learning. While statistical learning plays a role, children become sensitive to the frequencies of different sound combinations. For instance, Pinker notes it cannot account for the hierarchical structure of language. Human languages possess properties like recursion, in which a phrase can embed another phrase of the same type within itself, resulting in structures of potentially unlimited depth. This is difficult to account for without positing some innate grammatical machinery. Such recursion is well understood through things like the depth of a sentence, which reflects the memory load on the processing system. The depth of a sentence is defined as the maximum number of constituents that need to be kept in memory at any given point while passing the sentence. Analyzing depths of different languages provides insight into their relative complexity and processing demands. Furthermore, Pinker delves into the neurobiological basis of language, examining the relationship between specific brain regions and linguistic functions. He discusses Broca's area, located in the left frontal lobe, and Wernicke's area, situated in the posterior temporal lobe, both of which are critical for language processing. Damage to Broca's area typically results in difficulties with speech production, characterized by halting speech and grammatical errors, while damage to Wernicke's area impairs language comprehension, often leading to fluent but nonsensical speech. These observations suggest a modular organization of language within the brain, with distinct regions responsible for different aspects of linguistic processing. The immediate impact of the language instinct was substantial. The book ignited intense debates within various disciplines, including linguistics, psychology, and philosophy. Linguists, particularly those adhering to generative grammar, generally welcomed Pinker's arguments, while those favoring usage-based or cognitive linguistic approaches often voiced skepticism. Cognitive linguists emphasize the role of general cognitive mechanisms, such as analogy and categorization, in shaping language. Rather than positing an innate linguistic module, philosophers debated the implications of Pinker's thesis for understanding the nature of mind and the relationship between language and thought. The adaptationist perspective, while influential, also drew criticism. Some scholars argued that adaptationist explanations can be overly speculative, attributing adaptive functions to every trait without sufficient empirical evidence. Others raised concerns about genetic determinism, fearing that such explanations might downplay the role of environmental factors in shaping human behavior. It is essential to note that Pinker does not argue for a strict genetic determinism, but rather emphasizes the interaction between innate predispositions and environmental influences. The influence of the language instinct extended beyond academic circles, reaching a wide popular audience. The book's accessible writing style and engaging examples made it a bestseller, introducing many readers to the complexities of language and the ongoing debates surrounding its nature. This is no small feat, as popular science writing is a difficult art, relying on the ability to present complex ideas in an accessible manner without oversimplifying them. Authors like Richard Feynman and Carl Sagan are often lauded for achieving this balance. Later use and evolution of the ideas presented in the language instinct have been both broad and deep. Researchers have continued to investigate the neural basis of language, utilizing advanced neuroimaging techniques, such as functional magnetic resonance imaging, to map the activity of different brain regions during linguistic tasks. These studies have provided further evidence for the modular organization of language within the brain and have shed light on the neural circuits involved in various aspects of linguistic processing, such as syntax, semantics, and phonology. Furthermore, researchers explored the genetic basis of language, searching for specific genes that might be associated with linguistic abilities or language disorders. While the genetic architecture of language is undoubtedly complex, involving multiple genes with small effects, several candidate genes have been identified, including FOXP2, which has been linked to speech and language development. Mutations in FOXP2 can lead to severe speech and language impairments, providing further evidence for the biological basis of language. Moreover, the ideas in the language instinct have influenced the development of computational models of language acquisition. Researchers have created computer programs that attempt to simulate the process by which children acquire language, exploring different learning algorithms and architectures. These models often incorporate innate biases or constraints, reflecting the assumption that children are not simply blank slates but rather possess pre-existing knowledge about language. Specifically, the principles and parameters approach to language acquisition, inspired by Chomsky's theory of universal grammar, assumes that children are born with a set of universal grammatical principles that are parameterized. Exposure to specific languages triggers the setting of these parameters, leading to the acquisition of the local grammar. The book also had ramifications within the field of artificial intelligence, particularly in the subfield of natural language processing. Understanding the complexities of human language is critical to building machines that can understand, generate, and translate human language. The insights from the language instinct have influenced the design of algorithms and models for natural language processing, including those based on deep learning, which have achieved remarkable progress in recent years. Critiques of the language instinct have continued since its publication, resulting in revisions and deeper understandings. Some critics argue that the book overemphasizes the role of innateness and downplays the role of experience and learning. They point to evidence that the brain is highly plastic, capable of adapting to different linguistic environments, and that language acquisition is influenced by a multitude of factors, including social interaction, cultural practices, and individual differences. It is true that the role of experience, particularly in early childhood, is crucial for proper linguistic development. Children deprived of linguistic input during critical periods and experience lasting language deficits. Moreover, some linguists have questioned the universality of Chomsky's universal grammar, arguing that languages differ more fundamentally than Chomsky's theory allows. They propose that languages vary along the continuum of typological features, reflecting the historical and cultural influences that have shaped their evolution. For example, analyses of language across the world show variation in word order, morphology, and syntactic structure that are difficult to reconcile with a strictly universal grammar. Pinker himself has acknowledged some of the limitations of his original arguments, recognizing the importance of experience and learning in shaping language acquisition. In his later work, He has emphasized the interaction between innate predispositions and environmental influences, acknowledging that language is not simply a product of genes but rather a complex interplay of nature and nurture. Specifically, Pinker's later works, like How the Mind Works, continue to grapple with the complexities of cognition, building upon the foundation laid in the language instinct. He explores how the human mind evolved to solve various adaptive problems, drawing on insights from evolutionary psychology, cognitive science, and neuroscience. He acknowledges that while language might have an innate component, its development is greatly influenced by cultural learning and interaction. The direct influences on the creation of the language instinct were numerous and varied. Beyond Chomsky, linguists such as Derek Bickerton, whose work on Creole languages provided compelling evidence for innate language capacities, were influential. The work of cognitive psychologists like Roger Brown, who studied language acquisition in young children, also shaped Pinker's thinking. Specific works like Bickerton's Language and Species and Brown's A First Language, the early stages, offer concrete examples of these influences. Darwin's theories on evolution served as a crucial framework. Furthermore, Noam Chomsky himself, despite sharing Pinker's belief in an innate linguistic capacity, offered some critiques of the language instinct. While agreeing on the existence of a universal grammar, Chomsky and Pinker differed on the evolutionary origins of language. Chomsky has argued that language might not have evolved through natural selection, but rather as a byproduct of other cognitive developments. He proposed that language may have arisen as a discrete event, a fortuitous mutation that conferred a selective advantage. This contrasts with Pinker's more gradualist view, which sees language as a product of cumulative selection. The direct influence of the language instinct on others is equally significant. Numerous researchers and scholars have built upon Pinker's work, exploring the biological and cognitive foundations of language. Cognitive neuroscientists, such as Angela Friedrichs, have used brain imaging techniques to investigate the neural circuits involved in language processing, providing further evidence for the modular organization of language within the brain. Linguists, like Ray Jackendoff, have developed more sophisticated models of grammar that incorporate both innate and learned aspects of language. Science writers, like Matt Ridley, have popularized the idea of the language instinct, bringing it to a wider audience. The enduring legacy of the language instinct lies in its ability to spark debate and generate new ideas. While some of its specific claims have been challenged or revised, its central thesis that language is a biological adaptation, shaped by natural selection, continues to resonate within the scientific community. The book serves as a reminder that language, one of the defining characteristics of our species, is not simply a cultural artifact, but rather a product of our evolutionary history. It underscores the importance of understanding the interplay between nature and nurture, genes and environment, in shaping the complexities of human cognition and behavior. The book has significantly shaped our current understanding of what is possible in the realm of artificial intelligence and has continued to fuel exploration into the origins of cognition and consciousness. In essence, The Language Instinct is not merely a book about language, but a profound exploration of what it means to be human, and stands as a testament to the power of interdisciplinary inquiry in illuminating the depths of the human mind.
We really appreciate you tuning into this AI-powered presentation. Our goal is to push the boundaries of AI in content creation, and your input is invaluable. If there's a particular subject you'd like to see us tackle next, or if you have suggestions on how we could fine-tune our AI's creative prompts, please don't hesitate to leave your ideas in the comments section. We're excited to bring you more unique content very soon.